Kia ora, good evening. An earthquake classed as severe rocked Southland this morning. The 5.2 magnitude quake struck 70 kilometres southwest of Tuatapere at just before 8:30 a.m. Nat Geo received 11 reports from residents who felt the tremors, including 6 from as far north as Invercargill. The earthquake was 9 kilometres deep. There have been no reports of any damage at this stage. The number of people claiming benefits in the southern region has dropped 5% since last year. Ministry of Social Development data released today shows 20,710 adults of working age were receiving main benefits in the September quarter. The level of recipients did, however, increase slightly from the previous quarter by nearly 1%. Job seeker support payments also witnessed a year-on-year decline of 8% alongside a 4% quarterly hike. This leaves 9,429 adults currently receiving job seeker benefits in the region. The data for the South reflects the wider trend in New Zealand, which saw an overall decrease in those on benefits of 5%. 11% of the country's working age population is receiving some form of government assistance. 5 Southland businesses have just completed 6 months of a lean business program supported by Venture Southland and consultant Clinton Yates. Mr. Yates has spent 18 years in the Japanese auto industry and is now passing the secrets of Japanese corporate efficiency on to New Zealand and Southland businesses. I asked the visiting consultant about lean businesses in Southland earlier today.
The program started 6 months ago with a series of what we called site visit number 1, where we saw where they were and a bit of an eye-opener for them and of course for the others, and we share that information. It's kind of a self-realisation. Goodness, you know, it doesn't matter where we think we are, we now know where we are. And we went, over the last couple of days, we went on the second round of site visits, so at the end of the 6-month program, and I'll honestly tell you that the results are quite staggering. The presentations today was really about them telling their story, and the presentations truly capture the physical changes that they've gone through in terms of physical workplace, in terms of process. But also they've kind of captured it on around culture, the feeling in the workplace, the culture, and sort of the enthusiasm that's going to sustain the program moving forward. But in so saying, you know, this is the start of the journey for them. The last 6 months has been around the education, designing the frameworks, the systems that are going to allow them to sustain the program. And one of the great messages that came out of the program today was all about where to from here. Each of the organisations in their presentation were very clear on, we've only just started, there's a lot more to do.
You see those efficiencies then in Southland enterprises and businesses. We are up with the play with the rest of the world, do you think?
Difficult to say because the organisations are so unique and so diverse. So I don't always like to focus on benchmarking with other organisations. I think the generic weaknesses, I guess, in terms of what we call the 7 wastes and therefore opportunities are there in all organisations.
And what are those 7 ways?
The 7 forms of waste, well, these are typical wastes that organisations face. The main one is what we call motion waste, searching, the amount of time that people spend searching, looking for things. And a typical statistic that I've read up in Japan is that the average worker can spend up to 40% of their day looking for the tools and information they need just to do their job. That means we kind of paying people 2 days a week to look and go and find things they need to do their job. Now that is what we call a waste. There's waste around transport, storage, overproduction, producing too much, stuff we're never going to sell, defect waste, problems in information and material, processing waste, where we're not using the right tool, the right information, the right material. So these are typical wastes that all organisations have. The challenge, as I said earlier, is to get people to identify them. We become very good at normalising wasteful environments and wasteful process. And over the years, we kind of forget about it. So the first stage in my program is to get organisations to truly identify the wastes and therefore the opportunities for improvement within their own businesses.
And staying with the business theme, 30 Southland businesses will contend for top spots in the first ever Westpac Southland Business Excellent Awards tomorrow night. 250 guests are expected at the event, which has been organised as a means to showcase the best of the region's business talent. The awards will run biannually and will serve as a platform to pay tribute to those building the community. Southland Chamber of Commerce CEO Richard Hay says recognition of Southland businesses is long overdue.
Well, we've been trying to have business awards for quite some time to celebrate what the businesses are doing in Southland, what they're contributing to the economy, what they're contributing to the community. It's very important, the place that they have within the community. Unfortunately, the global financial crisis got in the way, so we haven't been able to have them up till now. But now that we're out of the crisis, or there's at least indications that we're coming out of the crisis, there's a lot of good stories to be told, there's a lot of things to celebrate, and so now is a very, very good time to have the inaugural Southland Business of the Year Awards.
What benefits are there for Southland businesses to have business awards?
Well, I guess there's a couple of really good things there. The feedback that we're getting from them is the best benefit they're getting out of it is going through the procedure that they have to go through in order to enter. So some are coming back and saying, well, we hadn't really looked properly at this particular aspect of our business, now we know to do it. So that was a really big, good plus that was coming back. The other is, of course, if you're a winner, you're going to get a trophy, you're going to get a lot of publicity out of it, so there's a lot of marketing involved in it. And if you're the overall winner, not only do you get an enormously beautiful trophy, you get a $4,000 package.
What are the categories?
The categories are new and emerging business, Business of the Year with less than 15 full-time equivalents, Business of the Year with 15 full-time equivalents plus. There's a Retail Business Award, a Workplace Safety Award, Non-for-Profit Award, because they're a very important part of the business community, and Business Sustainability Award, which is more around the sustainability of businesses as opposed to environmental issues. And so the Personality of the Year Award and the Overall Award.
Obviously, this is the first award ceremony for Southland businesses. So how would you say that Southland businesses compare to those in other regions?
Well, one of the judges that we have has been a judge in other areas of New Zealand, and he thought that the quality of the applicants was up there without question from the other regions. So that was a pretty good indication. And when you consider the percentage of GDP and what we produce in the New Zealand economy, then Southland is certainly batting above its average.
Stay with us after the break. Celebrations of 150 years of rail in New Zealand. Welcome back. Phone-savvy Southlanders can now access free health advice through a new Ministry of Health funded app. The Healthline Symptom Checker allows users to identify their symptoms from a list or by browsing through a body parts section. The application then suggests an appropriate course of action, telling the patient whether it is necessary to call an ambulance or explaining how to manage the condition at home. Medibank Health Solutions is providing the app with backup from the ministry. Medibank's New Zealand General Manager Andrea Peter says the smartphone option will complement the Healthline telephone service, which received nearly 2,500 calls from the Southland region between April and June this year. Invercargill Labour Electoral Committee Chair Leslie Soper believes the John Banks court case over election donation indiscrepancies is the death knell for the current government, and Labour is ready to govern. The former MP says the elevation of David Cunliffe to leadership has reinvigorated the party faithful who are enjoying the new leader's emphasis on traditional Labour values.
David's been pretty clear about a lot of statements and talking about Labour's values, and I think somehow that seems to have come to as a surprise to lots in the media who sort of, Labour's talking about their core values as though we haven't always been doing it. I think there's been some very definite statements from David about things like the industrial legislation, and that has been fabulous. People have really liked that, picked it up, and the media obviously have noticed it.
And a living wage, another key point for David Cunliffe.
The living wage is an absolute yes. That's been a main one. David's been quite clear about Labor's support for that, and I'm really happy about that. And the feedback locally has been very positive about that.
Let's talk about asset sales now. Of course, the referendum's coming up. The Prime Minister's confirmed a date. Meridian share offers close tomorrow. Do you think the referendum's too late, and should we hold it? Should it be held?
Yes, absolutely, it should be held. This is the chance that people in New Zealand in huge thousands of numbers have asked for their democratic right to have a say and for the government to take notice of that say. That referendum is tremendously important, and remember that referendum is not just about one sale of a state asset, it is about the whole concept of should New Zealand be selling state assets. That question doesn't just talk about Meridian or Mighty River, it talks about the wide issue of all the state assets and whether or not this government should sell them. I'm urging people to get their postal ballot in, because it's going to be hugely important that message is crystal clear to this government.
The Prime Minister would say, of course, that the real referendum was the last election, and New Zealanders seem to overwhelmingly vote for these sales.
Well, I would say to the Prime Minister that actually that's a crock. Not at all the case. In fact, I had National Party people last election campaign telling me they didn't believe John Key would actually go ahead and sell the assets. Look, the fact is, hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders have said we are unhappy about that. We've had street marches, we've had rallies, we've had letters to the paper, we've had hundreds of thousands signing for a citizens-initiated referendum. That is our democratic right. A government that has spent $140 million preparing the assets for sale is suddenly carping at a few million to hold a democratic referendum. Nonsense, it should be held.
Labor's polling the highest since Helen Clark was in fact Prime Minister, which is quite a long time now. Do you think that? Yeah, that's right. And do you think that if they we've got trouble with John Banks and that sort of thing, there's talk about a snap election, you know, as the media does. Do you think that's a possibility, and could Labor govern?
Well, look, John Banks sent to trial for electoral fraud. It's the death knell for this government. They have no legitimacy, basically. New Zealanders are going to say from now on, is this government really depending on Peter Dunn and possibly a Maori Party member or two? This is nonsense. Yes, you look at the case. John Banks, of course, will hold on like grim death, but the fact is, this government has been given their death knell.
A slice of New Zealand history rolled into Invercargill today to celebrate 150 years of railway in the country. Kiwi Rail's Keeping New Zealand on the Move exhibition provided Invercargill rail enthusiasts the chance to look through 4 exhibits celebrating rail history, safety, its role in the New Zealand economy and where it's headed in the future. There was also the opportunity to chat to the driver and experience Kiwi Rail's newest passenger carriage. Kiwi Rail Senior Communication Advisor Sophie Lee says the event had experienced an excellent turnout, around 500 people attending the open day. The Exhibition Express started in Auckland on the 29th of September and has since made its way down the country, stopping in several other locations. After Invercargill, it will move on to Dunedin, also stopping in Oamaru and Timaru before its wheels finally grind to a halt in Christchurch next Saturday. That's all from the news team for today. The All Blacks are up next in sport. From us, have a very good night.